In this video, I'll be talking about whether or not traveling solo is actually safe and my top safety tips for traveling solo. My name is Laura and my videos are focused on fashion, modeling, and travel. Before I get into this video, I want to just quickly speak on solo traveling. Traveling on your own is one of the most enriching experiences that you can give yourself. All of my solo travel experiences are some of my favorite memories in my entire life. I think it's really important to preface this video by just saying quickly that while you're traveling solo, you might feel extremely uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that you're not safe. And that has been kind of like a mantra or a saying that I've told myself. You have to remember that when you're traveling solo in a foreign country or a new city, everything you're experiencing is new and different. And so you might be in situations where you feel really uncomfortable or you feel nervous or you're not really sure what's going on, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're unsafe. And I think that has helped me get through a few different situations where I genuinely was not unsafe. I was just experiencing something new and different with people that I'd never met before. And I really feel like this year is going to be the year of travel, and so I'm sure a lot of you are looking at planning trips this year. Should I take a trip solo? And my advice to you would be yes, 1000% plan a solo trip. But just do your research and make sure that you're prepared for wherever you're going. If you're traveling solo for the first time or you're going to a place that you've never been before, I would stay in a city that is busy and touristy and there's a lot of people. I know that it can be tempting to like go somewhere that's kind of remote and off the grid, and those trips can be really fun and cool. But I would, if you're solo and especially if you're a woman, I would stay somewhere that is very populated and touristy and you have access to things like grocery stores, hospitals, clinics, pharmacies. You know, if you're in a country where you don't really know where you are and not everybody speaks English and you need something and you're alone, it could be risky. So I would just recommend to stay somewhere where you feel safe, it's more populated, you'll be able to get help if you need it, etc. Always have access to your phone. You need to have access at all times to maps and texting and even sometimes social media. When I'm traveling solo, it depends on how long I'm going, but if it's just a week or two, I'll pay for my Verizon plan to work in that country daily. Or if it's for months, I will buy a SIM card in that country and pay monthly for unlimited data. This is something that is just completely non-negotiable for me, because if you need to get home late at night, if you need to figure out where you are, if you're meeting somebody and you need to text them, or if you're boarding the metro and you need to pull up your pass, or you're getting on a plane and you need to pull up your boarding pass, always have your phone. And I also always have a Mophie charger. It's like an external battery that's always charged. And then I also always try to have my phone charger with me. So I have my phone charger, my Mophie, and my phone typically at all times. It's just something that you need to make sure you have figured out. So either pay for your phone plan to cover you overseas with unlimited data, or pay for a SIM card once you get to your destination. The only caveat with the SIM cards is your phone needs to be unlocked. So you need to be able to put that SIM card in your phone. I would just check with your carrier and ask them if you're all set up for that. But having access to maps and texting is so crucial, and it has saved me in a lot of situations. That is a very big tip from me. Be very careful about pickpocketing. I have actually never been pickpocketed. I have a lot of friends that have been while they're traveling, and if someone steals your stuff, it ruins your entire trip. And it could be your passport, it could be your phone, it could be your ID, it could be all of your money, it could be the keys to your Airbnb. So just make sure that you have all of your things in a smaller bag that like zips. It's not just a button that they can open and snatch or take off of you. In Europe especially, don't wear a backpack on your back, because people will just open it and take it and you literally won't even feel it. You won't know that they're doing it until you open it and realize your stuff is missing. If you do have a backpack, put it on the front or carry it on the side and have it right here. Never, never, ever set your things down and look away. I've had friends set a bag down at a train station and it gets taken and they have all their stuff missing. So just make sure that you know where your things are at all times and that they're physically on you. Like, I won't even put my bag down when I'm at a restaurant. I put it in my lap. If your things get stolen, your trip is going to be not at all what you planned for it to be, and you're gonna be panicking a lot and trying to figure out how to get a new passport or a new ID or a new phone. Just make sure that you're really cautious with your things. The other tip regarding pickpocketing is I always keep important documents like my ID, my passport, separate. I never put them in the same bag in case one bag gets stolen or one bag gets lost in transit or whatever happens. I always make sure that I have like one important document on me and then one back at my hotel or back at the Airbnb or wherever I'm staying. And then if you are staying in hostels, which I highly recommend, highly recommend, just have a lock with you to lock your suitcase. I'll link a few locks down below. Just be careful and aware of your important, valuable things at all times. This is kind of a no-brainer, but I just want to elaborate on this. Choose a safe destination. I think this really goes without saying, but just do your research before you go. Know the political climate, know the weather climate too, like if there's hurricane warnings or storm warnings or whatever's going on. Just know what you're getting yourself into and then be prepared for that. On top of choosing a safe destination, I would also do research, especially as a female, as to what the women's rights are in the destination that you're going to. Is it going to be weird that you're walking around by yourself or going into a museum by yourself? Is that going to be making you a huge target in that country or that city? Just really know what you're getting yourself into, and keep in mind that the way that women are treated in America and the Western world is not the same when you start traveling. Just do your research, it'll protect you in every way possible. Try not to be flashy when you're traveling by yourself. I think especially as a female, when people know you're a solo traveler, you can already be kind of a target and people are watching you a little bit. But if you have expensive jewelry or you have a super nice purse or a really nice wallet or things like that where people are like, oh, this girl probably has money in her purse. Don't do anything and don't wear anything that's gonna make you more of a target or that's gonna make you more susceptible to pickpocketing or robbery or whatever that is. There are countries where as females we have to be careful about what we wear so that we respect the culture. An example of this for me was in Egypt. I went to Egypt not solo, I was with my boyfriend. I wore very baggy clothes. I didn't pack any shorts. I wore like long white pants that were baggy. My shirts were kind of oversized and baggy. My shoulders were always covered and my legs were covered. I wasn't in any sort of situation where I had to cover my head for any reason, but I did have to have my shoulders covered in certain places. Same thing in Israel and Jerusalem. We had to have our shoulders covered the entire time that we were in the old city of Jerusalem. So just be aware of those things and be respectful of those things. There's so many resources online where you can find out what to wear and what to pack and how to pack the right clothes. Obviously in Europe and the US, like it's very casual and relaxed, but when you start going east, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, there are just more factors that we have to be aware of. As a traveler, we do have to respect their culture and their rules, and so just make sure you do your research on those things, and if you have any questions about that, please leave them below and I will get back to you guys. A big decision to make when you're traveling solo is what type of accommodation you're gonna stay in. There's hotels, Airbnbs, hostels, etc. I've stayed in hostels all over the world and I actually love hostels and prefer them because as a solo traveler, it's the best way to meet people. And I've never had a bad experience in a hostel ever. I'm very careful about the hostels I stay in. I read all of the reviews. I book through hostelworld.com. I only stay in female dorms. I don't think I've ever stayed in a co-ed dorm. Staying in hostels is a surefire way to meet some really amazing people that are your age and are likely also solo. The hostels organize bar crawls, walking tours. Depending on where you are, they'll host adventures and different types of day trips and stuff. So Hostels are an amazing place to go if you're solo and you're a little bit nervous. There's also a bunch of communal areas where you can meet people and just like have a drink at the end of the night without leaving the hostel. And then hotels can be really nice too if you want to just make sure you're in a safe building. I've stayed alone in hotels a few times. I'm not gonna lie, it does get lonely and it's expensive. It's not always so necessary, but there have been solo trips that I've planned where the hotels were actually less than the Airbnbs, which was the case in Paris. And I stayed in a hotel and I loved it. I loved every second of it. Normally Airbnbs are less than hotels, but once you start adding in the cleaning fees and service fees, like it can actually really add up. I've booked Airbnbs solo where it's a guest house, so there's other people staying in the other rooms. But I don't think I've ever actually booked an Airbnb and stayed in it completely by myself. I just find Airbnbs to not be as cost effective when you're renting out the entire space. I would really say try to stay in a hostel if you really want to do like solo traveling. It is such an experience. I've never had an issue with it. It is all shared spaces though, so just be ready for that, like shared shower, shared bedroom. The beds usually have like a curtain that pulls it shut and separates you, but that's also not always the case. I stayed in a hostel in Prague where that was not the case. It was just open bunk beds, and same with Rome. I always end up making really good connections when I'm in a hostel, and I never regret staying there. And it's like, it can be under 40 bucks a night, under $30 a night. So I would definitely recommend it. It might be really intimidating, but you'll most likely have the best experience. I have personally stayed solo in hostels in Mexico City, Cape Town, Rome, Prague, Lisbon, Madrid, Copenhagen. I'll link Hostel World down below so you guys can see what I'm talking about. They really do vet everything. There's countless reviews that you can read, and it's just, I've always loved my experiences in hostels. My last and final major safety tip that I just couldn't make this video without saying is don't compromise your awareness when you're traveling solo. It's so not worth it. It can put you in the worst situation. You're most likely in a foreign country that you've never been before. You might not speak the language. You don't necessarily know how to get around. There's no reason to be putting yourself in a situation where you can't take care of yourself and get yourself home and be fully aware of your surroundings. There's nothing wrong with drinking and having drinks while you're traveling. There's nothing wrong with that, but just be really careful that you're being safe about it, because the second that you can't control yourself or take care of yourself, it can get a little bit scary, and especially as a female. It's always better to err on the side of caution, especially when you're traveling. And to be completely honest, whenever I'm traveling solo, I don't even want to get there because I don't know what could happen. And so I just wanted to be sure that I mentioned that in this video, because that could be bad. I think traveling solo can be so scary and intimidating, especially if you're somebody that hasn't ever really done something like that before, and you typically are with your family, or maybe you've never traveled at all and you're wondering if you should travel solo. I think solo travel is the best thing you can do for yourself. I have lived in Mexico City, Madrid, and Milan for extended periods. I've traveled solo to a multitude of cities around the world, and I just absolutely love it. I think it's the reason that I am who I am, and it shaped me in so many ways. But you do have to be cautious, and you have to plan it out a little bit and just be aware of your surroundings, research where you're going. I have a few blog posts that I'll link below about like my favorite solo travel destinations and how to pack for a solo trip. Those are my main safety tips for solo travel. I hope that this was helpful. I think a lot of the things that I've talked about I've had to figure out as I go, and I'm happy to be putting this in a video for other people to see so that they can find it resourceful and helpful for their trip. Solo traveling is one of my favorite things about life. It's some of my best memories, best experiences. I've become a new person because of it, and I just absolutely love it and recommend it to anybody out there who's thinking of doing it. Just make sure that you're prepared and that you do your research, and be prepared to be totally addicted to traveling solo after your trip. And please, again, like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.